things because they had too much to lose. Okay? And it took 16, 18, sometimes 24-hour days of reading. I read until I couldn't see. And I had to go take breaks. That's why I ended up doing my yurt thing in Alaska, because it's just, I have to get away. I have to get outside and just build something and go camping. That's my, thing. Because otherwise I was going crazy. The internet, was a wonderful tool. I'd never used it in college. I'm old. I'm older, so I didn't have that. And when I did my research, I actually did hands-on research. And the early research that I did about all of this in Seattle, I didn't do any of it on the internet except for the Department of Justice programs. I was shocked to find out that they published all that. I'm like, wow, it was fabulous. And at the same time, most of the documents that I had were all from the offices. I asked them for their meeting notes. I asked them for everything, and I had to fight them pretty hard, but I got a lot of stuff. And then, I was going to put it all online at the ACL, all those documents. We were going to scan them into PDF files. And by the time I went to go online a couple years later, a lot of stuff was online. In fact, there was so much online that I went crazy building the ACL website for like the next 2 years.
Okay.
And linked to 10,000 other agencies, because they don't hide it. And that's, I know you already know this, Henrik, you want to know something, you can go right to the source and find it out.
Right, yeah.
And if it's really damaging, they'll pull it offline, but it's always cached. Once it's online, it's always there somewhere,
Yeah.
Can't be found. Unless it's about, Israeli mercenaries in Colombia. Then you might not find that one,
Right.
But for the most part, there was just plenty. Vision 2020, people are always asking me about, how can we find out what's on our place, and this ties into a local Agenda 21. Now, in some places, they actually call it that, but you put in local Agenda 21 Sweden, and it'll come up. I mean, it's there.
Right. I remember, actually quite a few years ago when I was going in school, when this idea was introduced, in that regard, or at least I was in that stage of my government training, as it were, going to school, where they announced this to us, and they were hammering and jammering about this Agenda 21, and now we're going to do this, and we're going to have these different projects about this, that, and the other, and you really, I didn't, at the same time, it's very much resonate with your idea there that you said before, that it was like, I don't get it, what the heck is all this crap about, it's like, I had an instinctual kind of, what do you call it, being against it, I didn't like it at all, yet they were trying to, all the time and hammering this idea over and over and over again. So I think that the Agenda 21 is definitely something that has been, this is something that basically has reached out across the globe, and everyone, pretty much knows about it, at least in the Western world, I think. And do you know how long they've been doing this? I mean, this is something that they must have been planning from like the 1960s, 70s, or something like that, or even earlier. Do you know?
There's the Marshall Plan. The United States Marshall Plan that was used to rebuild Germany and Europe after World War II has been reintroduced right now as the Global Marshall Plan. And so that, I just found that recently and started studying that and went, wow, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's a whole other aspect that I hadn't looked at. I think that they've written several plans. Local Agenda 21, one of the things that blew my mind was how it tied to everything that I was studying. It tied to the database. It tied to environmentalism. It tied to ecotourism. It tied to the theories, the communism. It tied to the property rights, the Kilo decision in the United States. It tied to everything. So that's basically how I said Agenda 21 research page at the ACL is, 17 categories, and they're all, it's pretty boring, but it says how Agenda 21 ties to blank,
Yeah.
because that's all I did with it was just say, wow, it ties to everything. And then I just, this last summer, found legislation that was introduced in the U.S. Congress to fully endorse it. And it's also called a conspiracy theory. I mean, if you talk to anybody about Agenda 21, they'll go, that's a conspiracy theory,
Yeah.
which cracks me up because I'm like, have you looked it up? And then what I did, just because I wanted to see how it tied to the war on terrorism, I went and looked up all the countries in the Middle East that we were at war with, and their plans were all blank. So I started warning people on my website, if you come from a country that's blank, be prepared, you know, because they are filling it in however they can. So, and the U.S. government has even said that they're creating a communitarian system in Iraq. Not that anybody pays any attention to that, you know.
Well, that's the same idea again, because it has been such a chaos for a long time. So again, that the people there are going to demand the solution to it, to the problem. And in this instance, it's going to be like, yes, you know, anything just to have peace. And that's another kind of dialectic here as well, you know, to war and create enough chaos in one region so that the people within the region are so, you know, upset about it and say, you know, no, we take whatever we can in order to attain some kind of stability and peace again. And I think that has been a big part of the plan as well, to kind of erode either a country or a region from their own, you know, self-governance basically, and in such a way they can remove that very simply and come in with this folks, you know, government or folks politicians coming in and taking over. What do you think, Niki?
Well, and I think it's done on many levels. I also was astonished to find out that Iraq had a constitution. It was written, I think, in 1925 when they declared independence from the empire.
Okay.
And it kind of blew my mind that they didn't just restore the Constitution.
Right, yeah.
Why they had to write a new one, you know?
Right.
And then all the interim committees, and that's communitarian structure, those interim committees and community councils and levels and levels and levels of appointed councils is the communitarian structure. You have your appointed councils at the top, your appointed councils at the regional level, and these are the courts. You know, the court at Luxembourg, in Brussels. There's like several different courts that are making these communitarian legal decisions, and then they call them that. All of the integration in the EU is called communitarian integration, which means you have to rewrite your national law to become subordinate to European community law.
Absolutely, and this is, of course, one of the big things that they've been pushing now with the Lisbon Treaty and all this stuff, to actually create basically a European constitution and vote that into place, and just basically eroding the national sovereignty and bypassing that, if you will. We'll see what's going to happen here now then, because they're trying desperately to reintroduce this. But again, the same idea of this is that even though that, as in this instance that we mentioned before, that Ireland vote the Lisbon Treaty down, but they're going to come back and come back and come back and come back until they have what they want in place, right? You know, they're not going to give up here, are they?
No, they're not going to give up. Which is, and it's just what little I know about the Irish. I don't think they're going to give up either.
Oh no, I don't think so either, and I don't. I hope.
I mean, I don't mean to laugh, okay, but I mean, it was just so amazing to me that the one, you know, after the French and the Dutch did it, which shocked me, okay.
Yeah.
It did, you know. So I was like, because I'm like everyone else. At some point, you become brainwashed into thinking about other nations, okay? And you hear it your whole life. It's propaganda, it's lies, but still, you know, it becomes part of your psyche, and you don't even know it. So I've been so mad at the French, and I've been so mad at the Dutch.
Okay.
Governments, okay?
Right.
That when I saw them, they rejected the treaty, I was like, oh my God, I have to remember that the common people are the common people everywhere, and they're the ones that have embraced the original American Declaration of Independence. And whether it was written as a lie, okay, which I don't know, I can't tell you one way or the other, but the idea of it, the idea of economic freedom appealed to everyone.
Yeah.
Commoners everywhere, you know, and I think it still does. And I think that's that piece that we hold on to within the system, is that we think we have economic freedom. We can still buy things. We have purchase power, you know. We can get what we need for the most part. We can find a job. We can look for a better job. We can move, you know. All of these things that we can do right now, that's the final curtain, you see.
Yeah.
When they shut down your economic, actually your freedom of movement, which is really your business. If you can't move, you can't do business, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what I see coming now, and that's what I see. A lot of my friends who didn't believe me 10 years ago they still don't want to believe me, and I don't want them to. Okay, because that's another thing about my work, Henrik, is I don't want you to believe me.
No, exactly. That's the point here, right? That you shouldn't believe anyone. You should come to your own conclusions about this stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And look at their documents, and you might be a communitarian. You might want to support this. Now, I'm not going to be on your side, okay? I'm absolutely opposed to a global government system based on the lie.
Yeah.
Now, if there was a real global government system, I mean, I don't see that anywhere in the picture, okay? Because people are really different, and they really do look after their own. You know, they broke down all the tribes. I'm seeing this now, okay? They went around the world and destroyed indigenous people everywhere.
Yeah.
They took away their ability to make their own shoes, their own little huts. People don't make anything for themselves anymore. The government provides it, or you buy it.
Yeah.
From the corporations that work with the government, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes they subsidize it, sometimes they don't. People don't care. They want a house. They want to be, they want to live. So when they took away our little huts, and they took away our ability to walk down to the stream and fill it up with water, or make a little dam, or dig a well, they own you. They've had you since then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everything since then has been the illusion that that we have any freedom. You can't drive without permission. You can't buy anything basically without permission on some level now,
Yeah.
I mean, they're regulating so many things, and there's so many hoops you have to go through, and you have to scratch backs. There's graft at every level of government now. You got money, you get what you want, you know?
Yeah.
And I wasn't raised that way. That really upset me, that I had no position in the Seattle city structure. So how dare I ask questions,
Right. Yeah, you're not a part of the little elite that they have going there, right?
Right. And their little elite is held together by a very thin thread.
Yeah.
So anybody that, shows up with any force of character, which I was a bartender for 15 years in Alaska, I got force of character.
Right.
So, I also never lost my sense of justice, okay?
Yeah.
If something's not right, it's not right. And, a lot of what I said about the philosophy earlier is to break that down, so that you don't have that anymore.
How about political correctness? That must play into their hands beautifully here.
Yeah, that's them.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's an ideology spawned from these people, potentially even.
Well, I think that they've written so much and they own so much now. They're very rich too, so it can't be about money because they got all the money.
Sure.
They make the money, they create it out of thin air whenever they want, What the money does, though, is will control us. Like America won't need the kind of actions that you see in Iraq or Afghanistan or East Timor or, Bosnia. We won't need that. Our people here will succumb to the financial crisis, that chaos.
Okay, right.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you see that that's an initial step into many people look at this as, okay, this is only to make the integration with Canada and Mexico and form the Amero here, another kind of economic union or currency, what have you. Do you see something else going on here beyond that?
Well, if you just look at the November 15th plan for the White House, their global financial crisis meeting.
Tell us about it, for those who don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, they're having one at the White House on November 15th, after the election. The new president will be in on this. It's a global financial crisis meeting where they're going to decide what kind of global laws will be necessary to prevent this from happening in the future. Yeah, they're making a big move right now. And after this election, which, to me, it really is just a dog and pony show, and it doesn't matter who gets in, but it will create chaos, extra chaos, between Americans. The left and the right have to fight,
Yeah, exactly.